Good evening. My name is Laura Perry, and I'm Deputy City Manager with the City of Aurora, and welcome to our first Build Up Aurora Ranking Roundup meeting. Before we jump into today's agenda, we're going to kick off with opening remarks and introductions with Jason Wardrop, a member of our Infrastructure Task Force.
Thank you guys very much. I'm Jason Wardrop. I am a resident of Aurora since 2004. Super excited to be able to work on figuring out pathways to fix our infrastructure and our basic needs in the city of Aurora. So I appreciate everybody inviting me. Curtis Gardner, Councilman Curtis Gardner, Francois, I really appreciate all that. And so a lot of work. We've been doing this for about a year now, really getting after it. A lot of presentations, a lot of needs. We've kind of let things go over a little bit. So it's a really good opportunity, and thank you all for coming to help us make these decisions and rank our opportunities here. So anyways, thank you guys very much, and I'm glad to see everybody, and we're going to have a fun time now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Today you'll hear an overview of other city facilities and capital project needs. So what is other city facilities? These are facilities like the Aurora Municipal Center right down the road. They are facilities like our detention center. And so you'll hear more from our department directors regarding capital project needs in those facilities. We'll also talk about our Build Up Aurora process, and the most important part of the presentation and work today is engaging you all and hearing from you all what your priorities are for these various needs. So to kick us off today, we're going to watch a short video which helps us define what infrastructure is.
Hey Siri, what is infrastructure? Infrastructure is the set of facilities and systems that serve a country, city, or other area. The City of Aurora's infrastructure is the building blocks that impact quality of life. It's roads and sidewalks, public safety, parks, libraries, recreation centers, and accessibility. Having safe, adequate, and well-maintained infrastructure is essential to Aurora's economic health and impacts every person who lives and works in the city. Build Up Aurora is the chance to get involved in the future of Aurora. Take the survey at engageaurora.com.
So that is a bit about what infrastructure is. We often get the questions, what is infrastructure? What does that entail? And so basically it's anything that's in our built environment. So any of the examples you saw in the video earlier, not services, not operations of the city.
Hey Siri.
So the City of Aurora owns and maintains a variety of capital assets across the city. We have more than 140 city facilities, over 103 developed parks, over 4,000 lane miles of streets that we have to pave, over 380 traffic signals, and over 98 bridges. The city every year invests dollars in our annual budget to maintain those assets. Each of these assets have a life where they need to be replaced, they have assets that need to be replaced, which are more costly when they get to that point in their life cycle. Cities fund capital projects and those needs in a variety of ways. The first is your annual budget. We call this pay as you go. So the city receives revenues annually from taxes, from fees, and those are invested in capital maintenance and capital projects. The majority of the city's capital budget funds street maintenance, so street paving that occurs on our residential streets, our major arterials in the city. That comprises the majority of our annual budget, as well as allocations for building maintenance and other project areas. Next is grants. So there have been a lot of grant opportunities available over the last 5 years that have focused on major capital and projects. So the infrastructure bill was a bill that came forward in 2021, and the city pursued a lot of various grant opportunities at that time and were successful in receiving funding to invest in some of our capital project needs. And then the last tool is called bonds. Cities utilize bonds to pay for major capital projects, new projects, major replacement, And what bonds are the city borrows money for major projects. So think of the mortgage on your home. When you buy a new house, you take out a mortgage and you borrow money from the bank that you pay back over time. The same occurs for bonds, where cities borrow money that is paid back over time with revenues that are received annually to cover those annual payments, just like your paycheck covering your mortgage payment for your house. Bonds require voter approval, and they are a contract between cities and voters where the monies for bonds have to be used on the projects that voters vote for as part of a ballot question. Utilizing bonds allow projects to move sooner because you're able to borrow the money up front versus pay as you go. You have to wait every year and often save up for a major project, and that takes some time. Over the last couple of years, the city has invested in major capital master planning efforts across a variety of infrastructure categories, from public safety to our first multimodal transportation master plan called Connecting Aurora, and our library facilities master plan, and ongoing is our ADA transition plan update. For every box you see listed here, there has been a form of engagement, public outreach, stakeholder engagement that has leveraged a lot of public feedback regarding what the community values and prioritizes in each of these areas. Through our capital master planning work, as well as technical analysis that's been completed on our infrastructure that the city owns, over $1.9 billion has been identified in capital needs that is to be incorporated in a draft 10-year capital master plan for the city. These projects consist of projects that the city cannot afford to do within our annual budget or with our pay-as-you-go funds that I explained to you earlier. As I mentioned, we were talking through funding sources. The city has been very creative in exhausting all funding sources to fund our infrastructure needs, and also has built public trust by successfully delivering capital projects on time and on budget. So the first is addressing residential street paving. So back in 2022, there was a great need to pave residential streets in our neighborhood. This is where Build Up Aurora began. And at that point in time, Councilmember Dustin Zvonek sponsored moving forward with a plan to catch up on our paving in residential streets. And the city borrowed $35 million to catch up on that. And that was done through a tool called a certificate of participation. And with that, we are now able to fund residential streets as well in our annual budget, so being able to keep up with that demand. And as of today, so back when we started this conversation, our pavement condition index was a 69, and that is now 79 based on the additional investment. So the pavement condition is a technical tool that the city utilizes to measure the condition of our pavement. So a 79 is extremely great pavement. So that's an example of fulfilling a need that the community brought forward and expressed with financial tools. The second I already touched on, pursuing federal and state infrastructure grants. We've been able to leverage a lot of funding for needs, but certainly the needs exceeds what we've been able to pursue grants for. And then last, the two last boxes go together. We've been out in the community over the past year doing a lot of communications, education, and engagement to understand globally from Aurorans what they value most when it comes to infrastructure, what they desire to see in their community, and as well as educate and engage on other needs in the city. Which brings us to the last box and our conversation today, which is developing a plan for a potential bond, as well as associated financial options with the help of our infrastructure task force. The infrastructure task force was unanimously approved by City Council in July of 2024 and is chaired by Councilmember Curtis Gardner as well as Councilmember Francois Bergen. The members listed here have met monthly over the last year and have really understood all of the city's project needs and will be continuing to seek community input on the project needs to ensure that the city is able to develop a community-informed and technically sound capital plan. The process began over a year ago with preliminary information gathering. The city had several master planning efforts underway, and through that have entered into where we are now, the evaluation and input stage, which is truly understanding all of the community's priorities, our capital needs, as well as funding strategies to address those capital needs that we hear from the community. The recommendations from the Infrastructure Task Force will be moving forward to City Council in early May. We began public engagement over a year ago and really met folks where they were. We attended over 45 events, had 3,500 plus interactions, over 2,600 surveys were taken, and 14 facilitated conversations with over 200 participants. And through this work, we were able to glean some top needs across the city from folks that participated, and we were able to understand specifically what those needs were. So here, the top concerns were public safety, and that includes everything from obviously our police, our fire, as well as transportation. So pedestrian safety, feeling safe to cross streets, pedestrian crossings, safety on riding your bike. Next, transportation. Over 50% of folks who participated addressed or put forward a transportation project idea and expressed desire to have improved transportation infrastructure within the city. And then last is parks and recreation. There was a lot of comments regarding additional parks and recreational opportunities and facilities within the city. So the remainder of the presentation will feature a brief presentation on each of the capital project needs that fall into our other city facilities category. These projects are also printed on boards across the room, and we'll explain to you how those will get used in a few. But as we walk you through the presentations, I'd like to ask you to do several things. One, adopt a prioritization lens. And think through, as you're listening to the projects, what resonates with you the most? What do you value the most? And do these projects reflect the critical needs that I see in my neighborhood and across the city? The next is prepare to rank. So keep track of those projects that really resonate with you, because what we are going to ask you to do is, after the presentation, we are going to ask you to identify and rank your top project priorities. So we have several materials at everyone's table that we'll be asking you to utilize here in a few to complete this exercise. And last and most importantly, your impact today. You do have an impact today in participating in this session, and your impact today will really help the Infrastructure Task Force determine which projects rise to the top that mean the most to you, as well as inform the city's 10-year capital master plan and recommendations that could include a potential bond package to help address those needs. This slide represents all of the projects in summary that you'll hear about today quickly in this session. The projects in our other city facilities category totals over $231 million. And we will now walk through each of those projects. But before we do that, I want to acknowledge Mayor Mike Hoffman has joined. Thank you, Mayor. Okay. And we'll introduce Eric Gibbons, our Deputy Park Administrator.
Thank you, Laura. All right. First of all, I'd like to thank the community for coming out and being involved with this. This is very important. where you guys know where your money might be spent at. Like Laura introduced me, I'm the chief over the courthouse as well as the marshal services. And today I want to talk about the Aurora Municipal Court Facility. The scope of the statement is upgrade outdated security and surveillance system, repair hazardous sidewalks conditions, and address other critical safety and compliances needs. Also with that, we're going to talk about the fire safety need. In our building, we have, our system is connected with 4 other buildings. In some kind of way, we got to separate the fire system. And that's going to take up most of the costs that you see up here. Other than that, it's just the regular maintenance in the buildings, such as the painting, the carpet, stuff like that that needs to be upgraded. This building was built in 1990, so it's been 35 years since there's been any major upgrades in here. Next slide. Okay, the main one I want to talk about is this one right here. This one is near and dear to my heart because we started this before the city sent somebody out to give us an assessment on what was going on in our building. So the city sent out an independent assessor, and they're the ones who came back with these numbers. But this number you see up here, they did not come back with. What we did, we started this project because it was a huge need. I've been with the city of Aurora for 3 years, and the first thing I did when I walked through the door was reach out to the U.S. Marshals and the Denver Sheriff Department to give me a security threat assessment. They came out independently, and the first thing that they pointed out to me was the front entrance. I mean, within the last 35 years, we've had huge tragedies when it comes to courthouses and public government buildings. I'll just use the Oklahoma City bombing. After that bombing, the federal government came out with mandates that we should find or we should do to keep our buildings safe, our courthouses and stuff like that. After that, you had the attack on our World Trade Centers. The federal government also came out and gave us mandates saying, hey, you guys need to comply and get this done to keep your courthouse and these government buildings safe. Like I said, this building's been here for 35 years and there has not been one major security upgrade. I know Laura just went through the slides, and if you go back 2 slides, let me go back 2 slides. Right there, you can see every project that's being really up on the board, and you see the status where most of them are in planning or in concept. You see the courthouse front entrance is in design, and what that means, we've already committed $895,000 to this project. So I don't want to lose that money. I know we can try to put this on the back burner and say we might be able to wait, a few years to get this done, but the cost is constantly going up. So I would hate for this plan to go sit on a shelf, and 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we try to pull it back out, and guess what? We're right back where we started. So I think this right here would be number 1 on my list, and I'm not being selfish, it's just that we're in the design stage, and we've committed so much money on this. So with me saying that, I would just like to emphasize that we need to be proactive, not reactive. I mean, in these government buildings, you guys hear stories all the time about things that are happening, how people are rushing in the courthouse and trying to get in with weapons. And the way we're set up in our courthouse now, our security is set up on the side, so we can't see anything that's coming at us. We need to move that to the front, and that's why this project came up. I've had the opportunity to go out with facilities, out to Arapahoe, out to Douglas, and you see when you go into their courthouse, their queuing area is a long way. So it's a big, long building where you can get all the people inside the building. Today in the courthouse, I have pictures, so if you guys want to see them, I'll share them with you later. When everybody was lining up to come into the courthouse today, the line went all the way down the stairs, if you know our courthouse, and circled to the right. So this is just not a security build out, it's also a security upgrade, it's also a security build out. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the front part of the courthouse and we're going to enclose it. So the community that's coming out to do their civil duties, such as jury duties, coming out there just taking care of all their stuff, won't be out in the environment. We'll have enclosement up there for them. If you guys get an opportunity, once you walk out here, the courthouse is right here, just you know what, look over there and look at it. And imagine you standing in that line with that line coming all the way down the stairs and to the right. So with that, if anybody has any questions for me, I can answer at this time. If not, I will introduce the Chief over detention, Chief Alexander.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening. As stated, I'm Lance Alexander, Chief of Detentions. Just a little bit about me. I've been in the field of law enforcement and detentions and corrections for 33 years. I'm also an auditor for the American Correctional Association, which means I go out throughout the United States assessing jails, detention centers, and correction facilities. I've been doing that for several years. I've been here 3 years now, and when I walked through the front door, I saw a lot of things that were cause for concern for me. Several things. On my tour, on my day one, I told my boss, I said, I've been in the building 15 minutes, and I already see 7 easily winnable lawsuits. And that's what we're dealing with. Like Siri said, this whole process is to ensure quality of life, you know, and we're not doing that when it comes to the jail. I understand jails are not pretty, and when you consider, okay, how can we work on quality of life, you don't always equate jail to quality of life or detention centers to quality of life. But the fact is, when people arrive in our facility, they're our community members. We don't wake up every day saying, we're gonna go to jail today or detentions today. But mistakes happen, those things happen. And when they happen, we want to ensure that our family members, our community members are properly taken care of. And one of those items for me is our ADA accommodations. We have top bunks right now, where the top bunk is probably a little bit higher than my shoulder. I'm 5'11" and a half, a little bit taller than my shoulder. Me at almost 8'60", I cannot get to that top bunk without assistance. And if I got there, there's no way I can get down. But we have 80 bunks in this facility that needs ladders. We just recently got 12s installed for roughly $15,000. And that was just 12. We have a 220-bed facility that we need to address. So when we have people coming in, they don't have to risk their safety by trying to climb up a top bunk without a ladder, or better yet, trying to get down from that top bunk without a ladder. Another issue of concern for me is our showers. Once again, ADA. Our showers are narrow. They're just as wide as a wheelchair. When someone goes up the ramp, they cannot maneuver. When they move in, they take a shower, and they have to back down the ramp in reverse. You don't have to be in a wheelchair to understand that's not safe for anyone. But this is what we are expecting our clients, our community members, our residents to have to do when they come here in a wheelchair. To me, that's unacceptable. In addition to that, we don't have the proper hand railings. So anyone that comes in a wheelchair cannot move themselves from seat to shower or seat to restroom facilities. There's no accommodations for that. There's no railing. So once again, our community members, our family members are subjected to that when they come into our facility. Another thing is our doors. This facility was built in 1989. It was not occupied until 1996. So that tells you when people moved in, it was already outdated and we already had problems, such as plumbing. I'll get to that in a minute. But our doors, they were built on a frame of 1989. So if our control center opens a door, hit the button, open the door, they cannot close that door. So that means that's a safety issue. Safety issue from detainee to detainee, or detainee to officer, or unfortunately, Officer 2 detainee. Once again, these are our community members. We have to keep them safe. So mistakes happen, the human elements gets involved, a control officer opens a door. Now they have to find somebody walking around that have the ability to go back and close that door because they can't close it. That's a safety risk not to the officer, not just to the officer, but also to the community members. So that's something we're in desperate need of repair. In terms of our plumbing, recently our upstairs housing unit was shut down for several months because our plumbing failed. Once it failed, our plumbing system was so outdated, the company that came in had to fabricate pieces for us just to get us up and running. Those are the issues we're dealing with. We come in, we can smell the sewage because of the backup that's going into the cells. So those are 3 or 4 high-level things that I wanted to touch on. Although that's minimal, we have a plethora of items that are within this project scope that we don't have the luxury of time to speak on today, but there's many more. Once again, Siri says, we have to assist with that quality of life. How can we do that when they come to our facility when mistakes happen and they're not properly taken care of? Thank you.
We'll have time for questions about projects at the end after we get through all the slides. So next on our ADA city facilities, I mentioned that the city is undertaking the update of its ADA transition plan. We have our city's ADA coordinator, Carlin Shorb, in the back with Carlin. Carlin can answer any questions you may have about that process, but this is simply a placeholder for improvements that are identified as a recommendation in our transition plan update to implement accessibility upgrades across our city-owned facilities. And these include building entrances, restrooms, service counters, signage, and other building elements to ensure they're accessible. Next, I'll introduce Jessica Caprasa, our Director of Housing and Community Services.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening, everybody. So just a couple of projects in our world, everything sheltering humans and animals. So that's kind of our piece. So the Aurora Animal Shelter, we have been lucky enough to put a funding package together and start design and hopefully break ground this summer in about June on a new animal shelter that will greatly expand our capacity and almost double our capacity, which will be very exciting. A modern facility. The current facility runs out of an old evidence building that you'll see here in a second. So we know when we open up, we will probably already need to be thinking about how to fund the expansion of the new facility. We've kind of put in the design sort of prefab to be able to add wings on. So this project here is really going to be additional shelter space, additional kennel space, thinking about sort of an industrial building where you can add a wing onto it. So that is what this is, to accommodate additional animal needs as our community continues to grow, with the sort of expected in 2030. So planning ahead on this. The next one is the decommissioning of what was our homelessness resource facility, the old Aurora Day Resource Center on the Fitzsimmons campus. This is an old Army gym, never meant to be functioning as a day resource center or a shelter for people. We used it from 2017 up until November of 2025 when we opened our new navigation facility. And so this building probably needs to come down. It was surrounded by some old barracks. We've already taken those down, and we're ready to sort of create a vision about what this property could be. It's about 4 acres total out there. So this is really the cost of demoing that building, which then creates an economic development opportunity on the campus, with that whole piece of property being cleaned up and ready for redevelopment. The next piece is the navigation campus that I just mentioned. It opened about 2 months ago. We have about 300 people on average in there, with basic shelter needs all the way up to transitional housing, with a navigation facility with services and things like case management, medical, behavioral health happening in there. This is an old building. We were able to open the facility faster and cheaper by not building new. However, the existing facility has some major maintenance things that will need to be done over time. It was built in the 70s. And so this project is really thinking about the condition assessment of the current building and how we take care of things like new roofs and, again, plumbing systems and things like that that will need to continue to be replaced there. So an ongoing need there for updates. And then back to the animal shelter. So we're, like I said, about to break ground later this year on a new animal facility. The existing facility we'll need to figure out what to do with. And so again, is that repurposing the facility, which costs money, bringing basic things up to code if we do that, or again, demoing it and finding another different, higher and better use for the existing facility. And so we're kind of evaluating what that looks like through the decommissioning process. And with that, I will turn it over to Kurt. Or do you want to turn it over to Kurt? Okay. I'm just trying to keep us moving.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kurt Milmeyer, Director of Public Works. So I'm going to be covering public works facilities and some multi-use facilities that we occupied by multiple departments. So the first one is this giant building behind me. I'm sure everybody's seen it. You can't hardly miss it if you drive down Chambers or Alameda. It's the Aurora Municipal Center. Mainly the City Hall building here. So this building was built in 2003, so it's 22 years old. Believe it or not, it's 285,000 square feet of space in that building, so it's a lot. It houses, I believe every department has space in that building. And so this project would fund the kind of current and future maintenance, repairs, and equipment replacement for major systems in the building. It also would fund a total parking lot resurfacing, as well as a replacement of the backup generator. The next facility I'm going to talk about is the central facilities, and so that's not too far from here, Ellsworth and Potomac. So this is a multi-use facility. Public Works has a footprint here, but so does Fleet. Fleet is responsible for maintaining and repairing all city vehicles in the city. Also is a footprint for Pros there, as well as Aurora Water. So it's truly a multi kind of department facility. So this project is the expansion of this facility. So it's, this facility was built in 1975. It was renovated in 2005. And in 2016, we did a master plan to identify future expansion to alleviate congestion and inefficiencies. So this project would fund the update to the master plan, a design and construction of the expansion. Same facility, so this is central facilities again, but this project addresses the backlog, current and future maintenance needs for major systems at the facility. So this is a new Northeast maintenance campus. So as the city continues to grow and expand to the north and east, Public Works and Pros and other departments have more challenges responding to those areas. In particular, a motor grader, if we're going to go grade a road in the Northeast, he spends half his time getting there and getting back to the current facility versus having another facility that can allow us to respond to issues and items in that part of town. So North Satellite facility, I'm going to be covering North Satellite and South Satellite. So North Satellite is 32nd Avenue between Chambers and Airport. So it addresses all of the street maintenance needs north of Mississippi. So snow removal, street sweeping, all those functions north of Mississippi launch from this facility. It's also home to our traffic division. So traffic responds from this facility. So this project is to expand the current facility. So we already own land that's due east of this facility, and we would be expanding material storage, equipment storage, and office space to accommodate, the growth in the north and northeast area. Similarly to Central, this project addresses kind of current and future maintenance and replacement of major systems, roofing, HVAC, mechanical. It also tears down and replaces a de-icing material storage tent that's about to fall down on its own. This would replace it with a new facility to store those materials. So moving to the south, so just as I mentioned, just as the opposite. So everything south of Mississippi is going to be addressed by the South Satellite Facility. So also home to Streets. Pros also occupies this facility. And so this one would similarly renovate current and future maintenance needs, give the kind of the area, the workshop areas a facelift. And also in that upper right-hand corner there, that's the truck wash for that facility. We pride ourselves in trying to clean our snow removal equipment rather quickly after snow events, if we ever have any. I know it hasn't snowed here for a while, but nonetheless, it's not very practical to have an outdoor car wash. So this project would enclose that car wash up in the top right corner there to make it more efficient and safer for our employees. So the Southeast Aurora Maintenance Campus, so currently SEAM, as it's affectionately called, is home to Aurora Water, but we have additional land out there that we can expand. Similarly to the Northeast facility, this would address the growing Southeast population, allow us to respond more efficiently, more effectively to those areas of the city. So there's, like I said, 30 acres out there that would be for public works and pros to help serve the southeast areas of the city. I think that is it. Yep. Thank you.
So we welcome any questions or clarifications that you'd like on any of the projects that the departments walked you through.
Just real easy, does the ADA include the city council chambers?
Yes, that project would be incorporated as part of that project listed.
Can you go back to slide 7? I just wanted to get the total capture of all the figures. That's 57.
Oh, 7, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
I just want to write it down. You can take other questions while I'm doing it.
Other questions? Yes.
How many people are we talking about being served a year in the detention center, the municipal courts, and the navigation center?
Eric, can you answer the first two questions?
So I know currently right now we have about 350 people coming in daily. Did you want to know?
Well, but they're not there continuously, so there's turnover, so I just look at the population per year, or the number of people per year.
I mean, I don't have those numbers directly with me, but I can get back with you. I know that this year, the courthouse, well, I'm going to say it's increasing, and it's due to the fact because of vehicle registrations. So I know off the top of my head, and I've been watching these numbers for the last couple of weeks, I know it's at least 350 people coming into the courthouse. I know that's the busiest building on this facility right now. As for the detention center, I think you went into that.
For the detention center, on average, we have about 35 to 50 people coming in our facility daily. Once again, it's a temporary holding facility. So they're not there long enough, max 72 hours. Then we're transferring them out to another facility. But at the same time, it's 35 to 50 people per day. So that's a lot of people that come in the doors. Did I answer your question?
I think the navigation center.
Yeah, so the highest occupancy is about 600 people. We're seeing about 300 right now on a daily average. We've been open 3 months and we've had just about 1,100 individuals served. That doesn't mean that they've spent multiple nights there, but they've come in for services maybe just with our day center. So we've only been open 3 years, but if you are 3 months, but if you kind of extrapolate that number throughout the year, we'll probably have close to a couple thousand individuals served, and then we'll see what that average daily night average looks like. But right now it's about 300 to 350 people.
Are there plans to include include solar panels for new construction or renovations on these buildings?
We currently do not have a requirement in code. Public Works, anything to add on that?
We did pretty extensive solar installation at the Southeast Aurora Maintenance Campus. Solar can be a little bit challenging. Excel can be it can be a long time to work with Excel, and so sometimes it's hard to fit them into your construction schedule. And rooftop solar panels, we kind of try to get away from because of the maintenance issues associated with them. But we did put some on a maintenance building that we had out at Southeast Aurora Maintenance Campus, as well as some solar carport canopies. So we always look for sustainability efforts as part of the construction design process.
Okay, moving on to the next part of the agenda. Jesse Byrne from our Housing Community Services Department will walk you through.
Hello everyone. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. My name is Jesse, and I'm going to be your facilitator for this evening. I am what would be referenced as a neutral facilitator, meaning all these projects are great, but I'm not here to influence your feedback in one direction or another. I have no prioritization in my mind. The goal here is to be able to get feedback from each and every one of you. We have different ways that we're going to be able to do that this evening. For those of you that are more extroverted, you'll have an opportunity to share out verbally some of the thoughts that you have around the projects that were just presented to you. And for those of you that might lean a little bit more introverted, we're also going to be collecting written responses from each of you on a series of different questions that we have pertaining to these presentations, these projects, so that we can be able to get your feedback. Some of you might have participated in some similar types of surveys or sessions before. I'm actually curious, show of hands, how many of you had heard about Build Up Aurora before you had actually got the invite or you came this evening? How many of you had heard about it in this past year? Okay, so most of you. How many of you actually completed a survey on Build Up Aurora at some point last year? I'm just curious to see how many of you did that. Okay, so we've got a lot of informed people in the room. That's a great jumping off point. And if you haven't, if you've never heard of Build Up Aurora before this evening, you're not at a loss for that. We still value your feedback and input as well. We're going to actually do two quick exercises that I'm going to walk everybody through here in just a moment. So the first one is going to be, we're going to do a prioritization exercise. And so there we go, perfect. If we look at the tables that all of you each have at your table, there are a different set of colored dots here at the table. And so what we want you to do, when I say go, is I want you to reflect on those projects that you just received the information on. And you're going to take a dot, and the dots are corresponded here above. So red dots are your #1 ranked projects out of the ones that you just received, that you've got the presentation on. Blue dots are your 2nd ranked prioritized project. Green dots is number 3rd on your list of ranking. Pink dots are number 4, and teal dots are number 5. And if you're colorblind, feel free to come over and talk with me and I'll help you out. What we want you to do is be able to, you probably need to tear some of these apart. And around the room, you're going to see a series of poster sheets that are stuck on the wall, hopefully still stuck on the wall. I think we've lost a couple. And you're going to take your numbered, prioritized, ranked dots, and you're going to place them on the project that represents how you're ranking them. So I'm not going to call out any one specific project, but let's say there's a project over here on X, Y, and Z. And if I think X, Y, and Z is my top ranked project that I would prioritize at the top of the list, I'm going to put a red dot on that poster sheet. If ABC poster sheet over here is my 2nd, I'm going to put a blue dot, and so forth from 1 to 5. Does that make sense? I'm going to give you all 10 minutes to reflect on what you would like to do, and then you can get up, move around, and be able to place your dots on the poster sheets. Once everybody has come back and sat down, you will know that we're ready to start more of a group dialogue. I think I've got a question here as well.
you have one dot for each category, or you can have as many dots as you want?
It is across all the projects. You only are picking 5 out of all the projects. 5 dots. So 5 dots total for each person. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, you'll have 10 minutes. Ready, set, go.
Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we all have. I used to have a conversation with a friend of mine who saw this car, the same car. I saw her when they saw her in gray, so there is a little bit of a difference. Yeah, we see it sometimes.
You're good. Before you know this. How old are you?
I did watch. You gotta think about the long term. No,
Excuse me.
Put it on my lap. Could you say I have the other page for you, and I can send you all the information. Well, I might be your marshal. Speak to the husband on the phone side. Mostly, I mean,
That's what they were, are they not? Yeah. Red dot.
I think we were the other meeting that one day come out of the pretty quick. They're getting to these other meetings.
Like, you have to tell me that. Like, I'm just saying, you know, it's terrible.
It's weird.
Now, 3 more minutes, 3 more minutes.
You want a cat? That's going to show up in the last 5 minutes.
Nope, don't know that
Last promise, sir. And even maybe that.
You ever been a ride home? Yeah. For real, yeah.
That tastes really good.
Oh, yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
You're a young guy, but my career opportunities here right now. So that's why I'm going to reserve when you go home. And I'll tell you real quick. I know Jesse has a place to walk.
That's the real reason. Yeah.
All right, one more minute. Relax together, one more minute.
Those are the days I know. But other than that, so. Pretty awesome. Let's go. There you go. Keep saying it. Yeah.
All right, let's pull everybody back together. I am. Stand. People can't see me. I'm standing behind you. I can stand in the back of the mirror.
A lot of people do that.
Great. I would appreciate each of you putting your dots up on the poster sheets. Just kind of glancing through the room, it looks like there are some #1 priorities for the animal shelter and the municipal court facility improvements. And then we've got a varied response in a number of the other different categories. We're now going to actually dig a little bit deeper into your thinking as to why and how you prioritize them the way that you did. So before we kind of share out, we're actually going to do a real quick, really quick survey. At your table, there is these 4 questions. It's just a very informal survey. I see a lot of you already started utilizing them, which is great. I'm going to give you about 10-ish minutes to write down your thoughts as a response to these questions. The questions are also based on how you just did your prioritization, your ranking of these different poster sheets, these different projects. And then we'll pull everybody back together and we'll have just a group discussion on you sharing out your thoughts in response to these questions and the prioritization. There are also pens at the table if you need those. So we'll give you about 10 minutes or so. Once everybody's ready, we'll pull the group back together again. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Ready, set, go. I should also mention we will be collecting these at the end and transcribing them. We will be reviewing your feedback. Don't worry about your handwriting. We will do our best.
Please worry a little bit about your handwriting.
Lisa says worry a little bit about it. Give everybody about 2 more minutes. All right, let's pull everybody back together. I'd like to just now debrief with everybody, and so you can respond to the answers that you gave in the questionnaire. You can also respond using the prioritization you just did. We're just going to start off by asking us a very general question of the group. What are just some initial thoughts that all of you had when you saw the presentations, the projects within the presentation? What were some thoughts that came to mind for any of the projects that you saw? Just any thoughts in general. Yes?
So I thought on the old Aurora Animal Shelter and the old Daily Resource Center, why don't you all just sell them and let whoever buys them do whatever they want to do with them? As opposed to having us put money into them, or we don't seem to know exactly what yet.
So for any of the questions that are good to ask our subject matter experts, I'll ask them to be able to help respond to that. Did you hear the question, Jessica?
I did. So I think in the case of the Day Resource Center, because we've taken down other buildings on that property, there's lots of asbestos and environmental remediation that has to happen. So getting a clean slate site
would be beneficial if we were going to sell the property. In that instance of that property, it's complicated because we got it through the Base Realignment Act, and so there are clauses on the property and deed restrictions on the property, deed of use. If we were actually going to go through this complicated process called abrogation with the federal government, we'd actually have to buy the property from them. So it's complicated, is my simple answer. Yes, we own the property, and there's a lot we'd have to do to be able to sell the property. For the animal shelter, that is an option, right? So I think that one is still evaluating options of what's the highest and best use of the building. Is it existing? Is there another use for the property where we would demo it for city operations? If we determine all of those things are not viable, then it may make more sense to sell the property.
But tearing down the property in the resource center, that makes the property more valuable when that property is not there.
Correct.
Thank you for that question. Any other initial thoughts or questions from the group as you received the presentation on all those projects? Yes.
I'm a fairly new resident, and I was surprised at how old these things are. When I came here, everything looked like it was fairly new, but looking at that list, I'm going, holy cow, this stuff is old. So
yeah, there's projects from the 70s, projects from the 90s. And Aurora, in many ways, is the tale of two cities when it comes to capital infrastructure, because we've got some areas of the city that have been around for generations, and then other areas of the city, depending on where one lives, that have been around for less than a decade. And so it's being aware, I think, of all of those, that yes, some of them are very dated. Any other observations? Yes?
This is not related to any one specific project, and I might have a distorted view because of where I live. We live in Hoffman Heights, and you started off by talking about repaving the streets and how they wanted to catch up on repaving the streets. Our house, we've been there for 12 years, and I think they've repaved our street 3 times, maybe 4 times, and it never felt like it needed to be repaved. And I would say when you repave streets, just encourage people to drive faster, and maybe that money would be better spent on more sidewalks. You know, there's a whole series along Potomac near our house that doesn't have a sidewalk, and sound emitting walls to drastically improve the quality of our neighborhood.
So the feedback I'm hearing from you, Brad, is given how much repaving of the streets has been happening, it might make sense to reallocate those funds towards other needs that you've also seen in the community, and that seemed to be a part of your thinking in how you were observing some of these different projects and understanding. Yes?
Were you finished?
Yeah.
I was just going to bring up another source. So I rated 88 high on my list, and one of the things is that obviously if we don't adhere to certain ADA standards, then we would be liable by the federal government and probably have some issues with that. But then there could be some federal funding that could be associated by becoming ADA compliant. I know the city is so vast, and a lot of the sidewalks are not ADA compliant; they're much smaller. And so by investing a large amount of money with the infrastructure, would we be at risk of missing out on some of the federal ADA funding?
Yeah, that would be more on that.
Okay, so you're asking if we were to put, as a city, put money towards the ADA improvements, would we be missing out on federal funding?
Yeah, could there, if we put that into the initiative, and say it's $25 million, and then, we would be missing out on possibly getting that federal funding that could be offsetting the cost or increasing.
We unfortunately don't receive federal funds for ADA improvements.
That was my question.
Okay, the requirement is Department of Justice requires every city to have an ADA transition plan, which is a 25-year plan which outlines recommendations for cities to make improvements, as well as improve services, all to provide greater accessibility. What we unfortunately don't receive any formula funds from the federal government, but certainly as part of scoping projects, we build in those accessibility improvements and ADA requirements, and often when we are pursuing federal grants as part of a project, those are being met as part of that larger project that we're applying for grants for. Is that a good thing to add?
Yeah, and I was going to say there may be some state or regional funding, but it's always matched, and so we'd have to be putting money into that funding anyway.
But there has to be a certain compliance at a certain time.
Yes.
If
Yes.
the city figures.
Correct.
Let's actually go more in that direction. We were talking about some prioritized projects. What were some projects that you ranked very high on your list? That you went up and you put a red dot up? I'm just curious if you can maybe share your thinking of which projects those were for you, and what was your thinking, what influenced you, and why you ranked those projects as high as you did. There's no right or wrong here. This is your feedback, your opinion.
Well, we volunteer with a lot of animal rescues, and I do feel that, you know, the different facilities, whether we have multiple in the city of Aurora or just one bigger one, I think you'd have a lot of benefit. There's a lot of stray animals in there, and whether they're negligent owners or that just the wind blew hard and blew their fence open. They're there, and there's a good place to go. And you have Denver, Dump Friendly, which is fairly close to us, but they're always full. So to take in animals, you might be finding they're sick, or you want to go adopt one. Be able to go in and walk through a facility and, you know, see how they're cared for and that kind of thing. I think it would be really beneficial for everyone.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you're speaking from experience as a pet owner and seeing the need for there being a shelter and animal services within the community, recognizing that oftentimes a lot of shelters are full, and that there's maybe a capacity issue that this particular project would be able to support. Am I capturing that accurately? Okay. Any other thoughts in terms of the projects that you can also go second ranked, third ranked, any of the other ones that you placed higher on your list?
The navigation center, I think that does help, you know, get them off the street, help guide them in a way that can improve their lives, which in return helps improve our community and our city.
Something that is maybe very visible that we see within the community, and that would be able to help address and being able to support the NAV Center.
Absolutely.
Got it. Anything else you want to add?
The other one was the detention center.
Okay.
And regardless of your reasons for being in there, whether you're an employee or an inmate or haven't gone through the process yet, haven't been charged or, you know, convicted of anything, still the right to be safe.
Yeah.
And have proper clothing and, you know, your needs met.
Yeah, that was how it was framed in the presentation too, is the quality of life issue, that these are members of the community. So that seemed to speak to you in that way. Got it. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to share out their thoughts? Yes, over here.
Well, I'm going to support anything that deals with animals. Because sometimes I like animals better than people.
Hey.
So anything that helps that, and I'm tired of seeing on Nextdoor, you know, we got to rehome, I can't take my pet, I can't do this, so they dump them. I mean, one of my animals is an animal that was dumped. He takes up 3/4 of the bed, but he's there.
Yeah.
So I just think that it makes it better for citizens overall if they have a place that they can take an animal that they can no longer support or have because of their financial or living conditions.
Yeah,
so that was my number one.
I appreciate you sharing that. So that it sounds like you feel that's a very important priority, just because these animals need to have somewhere to go. You also are speaking from experience. One thing you said reminded me of a quote of, if people don't like you, that's okay, but if animals don't like you, you have some real soul searching to do. So that seems in line with what you were describing. So animals very front and center from you and is an important priority. I hear that. Anyone else want to share? Yes?
The ADA city facility, Mayor Kaufman, I'm sure would go for, what was it, 10 years ago they had a study done for the ADA access, you know, at our city council meeting, and yet it's just sat there. So why isn't it not red?
And that's a very valid point in that some of these projects, whether it's someone speaking from experience or someone that's just been aware that this issue has been going on for a number of years and just has not been addressed yet, that can also be a motivating factor for why people will prioritize or rank it as high as they do, because maybe they feel like we've been discussing this topic, this need for quite some time, and now's the time to be able through Build Up Aurora to support that.
Yeah, so it's TBD.
TBD. Got it. Okay. Any other thoughts as to why any of you ranked your projects towards the top? Can I ask, is there any rationales on why anybody might have ranked them lower or wasn't as high of a priority? For those of you that maybe used your ranking of 5 for a project, so it still made your top 5, it just wasn't number 1. Can I ask any thoughts around that and why you might have ranked something a little, still important, but a little further down on your list?
Because I ran out of dots.
Because you ran out of dots. I want to build on that. Can I see a show of hands if you all had been able to rank your top 10 or your top 15, how many of you would have used more dots? Okay. And so this is a tough exercise, right? This is actually what the city goes through as well, right? In terms of there's only so much funding that you can use to be able to support a finite number of projects. So we're all kind of putting you in the driver's seat, right? Of us and how we're trying to navigate all of these amazing and important needs, but unfortunately not being able to fund every single one of them, at least currently, within Build Up Aurora. Was there any other thoughts that the group had around projects that maybe are related to these kinds of topics, but were not in the presentation? Other projects that you feel that are other city facilities within this focus area, but might not have been a project that was within this presentation, that you feel deserves some awareness and some focus from us as the city?
What about the Quonset hut by District 1 Police Station?
Say that again?
The Quonset hut?
Quonset hut?
By the District 1 Police Station.
Do you have anybody that can speak to that?
They use it for storage right now.
Correct, yeah. Aurora Police Department utilizes it for storage.
And tactical vehicles for SWAT is there.
That's why the parking lot fills up. Okay. Now it makes sense.
I appreciate that question though. Really, this is miscellaneous items. Is there other projects that maybe you feel still relate to other city facilities, but might not have been on these poster sheets that you feel maybe are even more important than the ones that you heard about this evening?
There's probably a lot of facilities in the Anschutz campus area that how many are owned by the city? Or
Yeah, I'm trying to think through it.
what's that?
There are not many.
In Anschutz or Lowry? Anschutz.
Yeah, so it's the District 1 Police Station, and then the property to the south of there where the Day Resource Center is. That's about 4.6 acres total. That's all owned by the city. I'm not aware of any other ones. Property that is.
Just so many old that are,
Yeah.
75 years old. So.
Any other thoughts around any other projects that you might feel more communication, more awareness, or more focus from the city for this category that you did not see?
I think safety improvements, intersections, for pedestrians and bicycles.
Any particular intersections that you would pinpoint, or just?
The ones we cross most are 6th and Potomac and 13th and Potomac. Just trying to get to the trailhead, because that's the same creek. 13th.
Got it.
And that's always heroin.
Thank you.
Maybe bollards that come up with white turns red.
Yeah. And these are the issues though that people care about, right? Because it affects your commute to work in the morning. It affects your ability for your children to play safely. Bike lanes, like those things can become very important. I do believe that's another focus area.
Correct. We have 3 meetings.
Transportation. Yes. So if you care about, this is a quick plug, if you care about transportation, like those kinds of things, we are going to actually have 3 different regional sessions just on that topic because it is so consequential for residents. So thanks for highlighting that. Okay, so what I heard from the group, and this might not represent every single person, but I heard the animal shelter and improvements to the municipal court facility were kind of the ones that were a little bit towards the top of the list. Just a show of hands, if you received a bond package or a ballot initiative to vote on those items, the animal shelter, the municipal courthouse improvement, how many of you, by show of hands, would vote in support of funding for those particular capital projects? I've got 2 hands, I've got several hands. Thank you. How many of you would not? That's fair. Are there any other last thoughts that we have around capital projects that were presented to you this evening? Anything that we didn't discuss that you'd like to share out? Any additional thoughts?
My only other thought about like ranking things was like price performance, where you know the lower price things I think are easier and can give us like a greater return than some of the higher cost things. That was my input.
So I can hear your rationale, which makes sense around lower cost items maybe aren't as much of a priority, but some of these bigger ticket, bigger cost items are ones that you would identify as prioritization?
No, the other way around.
The other way around, so the smaller cost items are ones that you would prioritize.
They're less money and will give hopefully a good benefit for less money.
So that return on investment is a little more cost effective. Got it. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Yes?
I think I would agree with that. It's partly, I was basing a lot of my ranking on basically how many Aurorans would be served by the facilities. They were talking about how many people use the municipal courts every day. So that makes it a little more important even than the City Hall building, even though City Hall has like 700 employees. But I rank the public interaction maybe more important than employees' interaction. So, I guess under that system, too bad for the public works people because nobody cares about those facilities. But it's in terms of how the facilities are used by the citizens of Aurora.
Yeah, the ones that are most frequently used by the most people. That's your return on investment.
Yes, that's partly that is I think a return on investment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. These are all very useful because while this is a small subset of this vast city of ours, all of you are representing the type of thinking that other people will also have out in the community as well. So this is a good kind of sample group to understand that, whether it's experiencing something directly because you've owned a pet or you've adopted a pet, or it's how many people would that project be able to serve, or it's the cost effectiveness of everything and the lower cost items and being able to do as many of them as possible and prioritizing it in that way. So this is helpful just because it ensures that we're able to understand the type of thinking that residents are engaging in. Yes?
One comment on Doug's comment there about not many people would use like the maintenance facilities. Well, actually, maintenance facilities are actually helping everybody. So, it may make a difference.
I do agree with that, but it's just...
Yeah, no, I agree with yours as well.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful thing. Like, everybody can have their own different frameworks of how they're thinking about this. It's a very personal choice in terms of how we rank something. How many of you, one last question, how many of you felt like these projects, I'm going to ask you two questions back to back, have citywide impact, or how many of them were just regional to a specific neighborhood? Show of hands, how many of you think that these projects were mostly citywide impact? How many of you think that they were only just very regional, very specific to one ward or one neighborhood? Okay, so you did feel that overarching of these projects do support the entire city. They are not just supporting one particular neighborhood. Okay. All right, any other last comments, thoughts, questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much for taking the time to give your input. It's very valuable. We are going to collect all this information and it's going to be used in decision making going forward. So this is a very useful exercise. Thank you all. Have a good evening.